So welcome to the Big One podcast. I'm very excited today because I am joined by Miggi. Now, Miggi, I actually met through Elijah from the Gravity Drive because I have a radio show and we were doing a show during lockdown all about local music. We were promoting local music because, of course, artists couldn't go out during the lockdown and play in gigs and stuff. So we thought, let's put a show together so that people could listen and appreciate local music and almost have like a little at-home gig, a little at-home session with these great musicians. And one of those was Miggi. Now, what I loved about what Miggi did was he actually put together little at-home sets that he recorded and we were able to play on the radio. So it was almost like having a little sort of compact gig at home. It was so awesome. People really, really enjoyed it. And looking at his bio and looking at his history, I just found it very, very intriguing. So I'm very excited to talk to you today, Miggi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Everything's okay so far. I've not caught anything flying through the air. So, well, as far as I know, I haven't. Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here and I'm really grateful.
Well, I'm grateful that you could take the time out of your day to see us. So thank you very, very much. Obviously, I've kind of known you through the music and sort of the stuff that we've been doing over lockdown. So I really, really appreciate that all the time that you spent, especially taking the time out to make those recordings and those sessions from home. Did you enjoy making them?
I did. It's something that I quite enjoy doing. And I have a recording studio here and have a computer set up with studio software. So I'm able to make those recordings and they are fairly straightforward. So to the listener, it sounds like a concert and it sounds like it's all off the cuff. But, you know, if you want the truth behind what goes on, then I sit here and record it and make sure I get it right. So record the guitar track first, do the little spiel bits in between the songs, and do the vocals, and then mix it all together and send it off. So it sounds off the cuff, but it's not. It's hopefully decently recorded, and you know, I think it comes over better that way.
Well, we really enjoyed it. And I know that feedback from the listeners, they really enjoyed it as well. Just kind of, because it had that almost live feel to it, it just kind of made people feel like they were there or they could have been there enjoying it as well. I didn't realize how much work went into making them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not too much work. I'm not sitting here for days on end recording, you know, 4 songs or something like that. It's not too onerous and quite enjoyable because you know, I like doing little sessions like that. It's almost like it's a concert in your living room, and it gives it a very intimate feel. And I do like, you know, talking to the audience when I'm playing and getting feedback. So the only thing I was missing was the feedback. But you know, I can tell the stories about the songs and give a little introduction and keep it light-hearted, and I think people relate to the songs a lot better that way. That's what I've found when I've worked like that.
Definitely. That's one thing that I enjoyed as well, that having you being able to not only do the tracks like that, but also give a little bit of a context to some of the songs and kind of the backgrounds or some of the inspiration really meant that I could detach and get more from the music as well. And so it was really lovely to have that all together.
Yeah. I think what happens when you work like that in an intimate environment, whether it be an open mic or a house concert or a garden party or something like that, then you know, and I'm not talking about just a pub where you know, people are just sitting there and wanting you to play a bit of Bon Jovi or something like that. When you get the opportunity to talk about the songs and as you say, the background to them and what was the inspiration behind them, then they relate so much better to those songs and say, and they focus in on them and listen to them much better. And I think it's a much better audience reaction and audience participation as a result of that.
Definitely.
So that's kind of what I like doing.
Love it. I love it. I love that you've kind of found that in your own performing, and it gives you that kind of love to keep doing it and to keep performing, getting those feedback from people being there. And obviously we can't do that right now, but
No.
but that's something to sort of look forward to as we sort of come out of lockdown.
You know, if I was able to achieve some of that by those recordings, then you know, that's job done as far as I'm concerned. So if you've had some positive feedback from listeners, then that's really good for me to hear, because you know, I'm clearly getting something right, which is what we like to do as performers.
Definitely. I think that's the one downside with doing things virtually, is to get the feedback. Like you said, you're not there with the audience, you don't get to physically see them. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like, I think it's quite fascinating that we are able to have these connections virtually, and it's trying to find a new way of working, a new way of doing it. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I got a little bit of feedback, and I know some people really enjoyed it. So it's great to kind of feed that back to you, and just know that it did make a difference, you know, whether or not you saw it or not.
Well, you know, that's positive then. And I think when you get the opportunity to go out on radio, then you're reaching a wider audience. I have no idea how many. There could have been hundreds or thousands. I've got no idea. But the fact that I'm reaching them, and the fact that they've taken the time and trouble, for some of them, to come back to you and say, you know, I enjoyed that, thank you very much, then that is, you know, part of what I'm here to do as far as I'm concerned. So I've been joining in on some open mic sessions over Zoom, and I don't find those as enjoyable, and it's because they're live, and even though, like, I'm doing a 3-song set or something like that, so I get the chance to chat between the songs, it does as responsive. And of course on Zoom you can see some of the audience if you go onto gallery, and you know, you can sometimes that's achievable, but I'm just not getting the same feedbacks or feeling from it. So clearly I prefer either doing a live set or doing a pre-recorded set where it's much more managed, and I think comes over better. So personal thing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think it is that sort of learning curve, isn't it, of these different formats that we've had to learn to embrace and learn to kind of use over the last few months that we may not have done before,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how we can get that interaction, or how it works in a different way.
Yeah, it's so Zoom works to a certain extent in that, you know, it brings people together, and you know, you can have a little bit of interaction, but when the music's playing you can't have any interaction because of the delay of the internet, and we've found that out as much as anything. My wife and I sing in a choir, and we've been running some sessions over Zoom to keep as many of the choir people together and joined up, if you like, as a community as we can. And so, you know, we've been playing music through backing tracks, and just singing to the backing tracks, sending out all the lyrics so that people have got them, and then they're just joining in. But of course, when you've got a group of people, they're all isolated, they're all in their own room. You have to mute them once you start the music, and so the only things that they can hear is the backing track and me, and they can't hear anybody else. So it's that lack of community that lets it down. But you know, at the moment, that's the best that we can do, so that's what we do.
That's it. I know from experience that it's so difficult. You can't sing across Zoom. It doesn't work.
No.
Everybody's kind of at different times and everybody's internet is different. So that must be so tricky.
Yes, it was one lady's birthday a couple of weeks ago, and we all sang happy birthday to her, unmuted, and of course it was cacophony rather than anything. Everybody, was in hoots of laughter because they realised that it doesn't work.
No.
So it was happy birthday.
Well, I'm really fascinated by your story because when I was preparing to do the stuff for the radio, I got a little bit of background from Elijah and from what you had online. And I was really fascinated because obviously in your story, it talks about how you had sort of part-time in Florida and here, and a lot of that kind of inspired the music that you started to create. Before I kind of delve into Florida though, I think, could you give us a little background on how you got into music? Where did that start for you?
Okay. I was a choir boy from the age of 8, so I suppose that's where it started. And that proved to be, this is a lesson for anyone who wants to learn how to sing. I learned how to sing. I was taught in a choir as a choir boy from the age of 8 until my voice broke. And that time was so incredibly good and positive for me because it enabled me to hear all of the other voices. I've found since then that some people have an ability to hear harmonies and some people don't. Even songwriters and musicians, I've met people like that who are not able to hear harmonies. Now, I can only put this down to my own grounding in the choir at that very young age, that I'm able to hear harmonies. So that's where it all started. I started playing guitar when I was about 16. We're talking about early mid-60s here.
Whereabouts did you grow up? Because it wasn't in Devon, was it?
No, I haven't got a Devon accent, if that was the right accent. I'm from Derbyshire, from the Midlands. So I grew up in what was a little village just outside Derby. It's now a very large village and it's probably just a part of the town now. But it was it's actually very similar countryside to Devon. Quite hilly, being the south end of the Pennines. Lovely countryside. So I've kind of come back to my roots, but it's a better climate here. So at the age of 16, I started playing guitar like loads of my contemporaries. And by the age of 18, I was playing in folk clubs. I always wanted to perform, so either as a solo or as a duo or something like that. I'd go out and perform for the next 2-3 years in local folk clubs. At that time, you either played acoustic guitar and played in folk clubs, because that was all there was, or you played electric guitar and played in a band and did the local youth clubs and things like that. That was it back in those days. A few years later, I ended up playing in a band in London, an acoustic band, and that would be early 70s, and we wrote all of our own stuff. So that was a time when I started writing songs. Some of them were pretty, but I was really, once again, playing with that band was a huge learning curve for me, because they were just so good. They were, the lineup was a five-piece acoustic band. I played acoustic guitar and vocals. Frontman, who did most of the vocals, lead vocals, but he also played harmonica. another guy who played guitar and keyboards and just about anything else you threw at him, and then a fiddle player and a stand-up bass man who were classically trained, Royal School of Music, so they used to orchestrate the songs. That was, as I say, a massive learning curve for me. And we used to do some recording, and we ended up, I suppose, the peak of that time was getting a live gig on Capital Radio in London, which was quite a good gig to get. We played for quite a long time. It was an overnight. It was a late night session, so we were there for quite a while, and we got through a lot of songs, singing and chat with the DJ. So that was. But we were trying to get recording contracts, and it wasn't happening. So eventually, you've got to make money, make a living. So life takes over in the end. So I carried on with my career and raising a family, playing in bands for the next Humpty Hump years, until I carried on writing on and off, but never really got anywhere, tried to get publishing deals, etc. Then I quit corporate life in 2009. And I thought, okay, I can now focus on the songwriting, which is what I started to do. Shortly after then, my wife and I bought a place in Florida to have as a holiday home. So we actually bought a mobile home on a mobile home site. So we were, white trailer trash, I suppose. You could say. I was in a beautiful little town called Dunedin, which is Scottish, and it is very Scottish. They have a bagpipe band, and they have the Highland Games there every year, and they have people coming over from Scotland to play bagpipes in their bagpipe band. So it's a lovely little arty town, and we lived there on and off for 7 years. And the music scene over there is fantastic. This is Tampa Bay area, so the Gulf Coast side of Florida, by far the nicest. I met some incredible musicians over there, and was introduced to a guy called John Kelly, who runs a place called the Hideaway Cafe, which is in St. Petersburg, or St. Pete as the locals call it. And that's a songwriters venue, so it's only songwriters that go there and perform, but he also has a recording studio. And so I started using his studio to record the songs, and the difference, between recording them in a professional studio to recording them on an 8-track at home was amazing, an eye-opener for me. So, and mostly also because John is, he sounds like, he plays guitar like Mark Knopfler. He's outstanding guitarist, and so he also plays bass guitar and percussion. So I used to go in there with a raw song, just with an acoustic guitar, and 3 hours later we'd end up with a polished, completed song which was suitable for radio. So so I kept going back and ended up finishing a CD there, which was released in 2013. And that is this one.
Oh wow, there it is. That's great.
It's called Freshly Cut Sandwiches. And named after the title track, which is about unrequited love in a sandwich bar. You know, a guy goes into the sandwich bar, it could be a girl, I suppose, goes into the sandwich bar every day to get his coffee and sandwiches, and he's in love with the girl behind the counter. But she doesn't know he exists. So that's the essence of the song, Freshly Cut Sandwiches. So that was 2013. And I had a release party at the Hideaway Cafe where John Kelly and his band backed me, and we went through the whole CD. So that was very special. And made even more special because my children and grandchildren were there to see it. So that was, well, I think it was special for them. It was special for me, especially for my grandkids to see what their granddad did. So yeah, it was good.
It's amazing, especially how it kind of progressed on. It's interesting that you, from what you're saying, even though maybe it wasn't the most prevalent thing in your life at the time, music's always been there since you kind of picked it up. It's always kind of been there in some form or another.
Yeah, always, in some form or another, as you say. But you know, when you're bringing up children and have a family, you have responsibilities. And I guess, you know, I kept on with my my career. I worked in IT for 40 years, so I'd had enough of it by 2019. You know, it was important for me to do that, and then the music and playing and writing was a sideline then. But you know, my career enabled me then to do something else. So my wife and I ran a business after I quit work, and at the same time we, you know, were able to invest in this holiday home in Florida, so that we could spend the winters over there and have a permanent suntan.
That's the best idea.
Seemed like a good idea to me.
Definitely.
So we missed the worst part of the winters, and also got the opportunity to I did a lot of writing over there and working with these other guys, and it was fantastic time. So the music from that time has very much an American vibe to it. So you know, you may want to call it country, but it's a bit kind of crossover, country, a little bit of folk, a little bit of country, a little bit of pop, quite a mixture. So it's not kind of mainstream country, but the musicians that I was using, you know, have that. It gives the whole CD that American feel to it. So I carried on recording, and 2 years later, this one popped out. This is Where I Belong, which was entirely recorded in Florida again, and has a bonus track of a track at a house concert, because one of the things that I enjoyed doing while we were over there was house concerts. They happen over here, but not in the same way. Over in Florida, the lifestyle is very different. It's very outdoors. Most people, a lot of people, have got swimming pools in their gardens. You know, the climate, particularly when we were over there, so between October and Christmas and early March to mid-May, the climate is pretty good, pretty stable. It's kind of 80 to 85 Fahrenheit, so that's high 20s centigrade. Sunny, you get the odd storm, but nothing too much. So it's very outdoors. It's shorts and t-shirts. And in the evenings it stays warm. So house concerts, either in somebody's living room or out in the yard at the back, is what we used to do over there. And it's a bit like the recordings I made for you. It's very intimate, and you get an audience of anything from 25 to 50, depending on the size of the space that you've got and the number of people that want to come along. But having an audience of 50 where you're playing your own music and telling them the stories about the songs, they all buy into it, and it also means that they buy a lot of CDs as well, which is good. So I get paid for the gig and sell a lot of CDs. So pretty nice job. To me, that is so much nicer than playing in a pub for 2 hours, where you've got some people who are listening and most people that aren't, and you're having to play covers. This is a concert in somebody's living room, where people want to be there. So it's the same feeling as I get when I play at the Hideaway Cafe. Because it's a songwriter's venue, everyone goes there to listen to the songs, because that's what they're there to do. So yeah, I took on one of these concerts, I wrote a song for that concert, because I was talking to the lady that was going to run the concert. I was with a friend of mine who we were going to share the gig between us. He did an hour, I did an hour. And we were having this chat. I don't know what the conversation was about, but he came up with this phrase that I'd never heard before. And the phrase was a punctuated equilibrium. And I thought, well, I've never heard of that. What does that mean? And he said, well, it means a big change. A change in the context of the world, a big seismic change. So when things have happened, like the dinosaurs getting wiped out by the meteorite and stuff like that, a punctuated equilibrium. Well, I thought maybe I can write a song about that, and so I did. And it's a funny song. It's meant to be tongue-in-cheek, and I did it at the house concert, and it's got a lot of conversation as the song is progressing. So it's not just a normal verse chorus bridge chorus song. It's a song about the punctuated equilibrium. So I got that. The house concert was recorded, and I took the audio from that and put it on the CD as a bonus track. So that gives people the feel of what it's like to be in a house concert, because it's the audience reaction all the time.
I think that's really fascinating, just for the fact that from what we talked about earlier about the radio sessions that you did, and kind of places and venues that you like to play, that like you said, we don't necessarily have that a lot over here, this sort of house sessions.
No.
But how much that kind of impacted you being able to do that in Florida, and like you said, the really, really intimate nature of being able to be there with a group of people who want to be there for music. That they've come to listen to that sort of music and to appreciate it. And so as a songwriter, that must be really, really great to engage in, because you're genuinely going to a venue or a place where people are there to hear what you make. You're not necessarily hired to do like covers or anything like that a lot of venues over here would require you to do.
That's right. So that's why I don't go out on tour over here. I very rarely do pub gigs. I like to do just songwriter showcases, open mics to keep my hand in and try songs out, and festivals. Be it craft fairs, local craft fairs where there's live music going on. That's my bag. That's how I like to perform. I can't see the point in going on tour. I'm never going to be a pop star at my age. So, you know, I'm trying to do things more digitally now so that people can appreciate the music, you know, through the modern day use of digital platforms, and trying to spread the word. Elijah is helping me do that through radio promotion of the CD that's being released at the moment. So you know, and that's helping. And you know, people like you who are playing my stuff, thank you very much, because otherwise I wouldn't be heard. So I appreciate it.
No problem. We, you know, I think, you know, that's one of the things that we try and do. Obviously, being local station is to try and promote local artists and local talent. And one thing I love about what you were saying is that that's something that kind of really resonates with you, is having that connection with the audience, and having, you know, it's not necessarily about getting the most amount of people to listen, but it's about having that connection in a very intimate way, whether it's through the songs that you write or the venues that you play, that you're able to do that.
Yeah. Even you know, when my experience of doing festivals, which I've been doing over the last, I don't know, 10 years, something like that, is that my performance is, as it always is, it's an introduction. So chat to the audience to start with, introduce what I'm going to do it, and then move on to the next song and introduce that, and still have that interaction. So even though the audience is spread out in front of you, I still feel that it's quite intimate, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's pretty much how I like to do it. So I look upon myself as a performer rather than you know, an out and out musician. So that there's more to it than just standing up there and doing the songs. I think it's important to me to be able to tell people what you're doing and you know, how the songs came about. But to me, it helps. So it doesn't work for everyone, but it works for me.
Yeah, and I think that comes a lot as well, from what you talked about from your background. You know, from starting off in the choirs and being in bands and stuff like that. That it allows you to not only think about the music you're playing, because I think sometimes that could almost be, you can almost get very, very attached to your stuff, and it becomes very neurotic, that you sometimes forget actually you're playing to a group, and you're doing, it's not just the music, although the music's really important, it's also about then how that is given to the audience you're playing to. And I can imagine from your background, from the choirs and stuff, that you do have, it gives you that kind of sense of, okay, you need to do this so that the audience can appreciate and can understand and get a feel of what that you're giving them.
Yes, I mean, that's right. So when I'm singing, I try and put some emotion into the vocals, and you know, try, as I say, to me, I'm there to entertain. So that, if people will like what I do, then they'll listen, and I try and put across every song as well as I possibly can. So you know, to me, if I'm delivering a good vocal, people, I know from what people have said, the audience have said, is that when I'm singing, they can hear every word. And that goes back to, I guess, my roots in the choir, where you were taught to sing and enunciate properly, and so that kind of thing has stuck. And I think that it's interesting. So because when my wife and I moved to Devon 3 years ago, we joined this local choir, and that was the first time I'd sung in a choir since I was since I was a boy, basically. But everything just dropped into place. So all of those skills that I learned when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old just came straight back. It's a bit like riding a bike. You never forget. Well, I never forgot, and just moved straight into singing with the choir. So you're talking about almost 60 years after after I finished in the choir, that I joined another choir, and here, bingo, same thing, except I'm a tenor now, not a soprano. But I could hear everything. The way I sang was the way you should sing when you're in a choir, and so on. And of course, the difference being in a choir is it's very disciplined. You, as a solo singer, you can accentuate words or shorten lines. You kind of change the melody if you want. You can do what you like because you're a solo singer. When you're in the choir, it has to be. It's very regimented and disciplined. So that's kind of a difference, and that kind of dropped into place again as well, as I say, from years ago. But yeah, I'm enjoying that side of it. It's just, to me, another way of expressing music.
Now, one of the things that I think is quite interesting with your background is because it's come from a very, I don't know if you would call it traditional with the choir, that you, like you said, it gives you skills and abilities that maybe you wouldn't have learned if you just started picking it up on your own. These sort of skills in singing and stuff like that, because a lot of people can learn the guitar on their own or learn to sing on their own, but you don't necessarily get those really refined skills that from a traditional sense come in, like you said, learning certain harmonies and how to harmonize and things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing grounding. And it also kind of reminded me of that when I was when I was living in Derby and working in Derby. I worked for Rolls-Royce, and which has a big, huge factory there making aero engines. So I joined their operatic society, which it's light opera, so it's musicals basically. Only for 1 year, I was in the chorus in this musical. And the thing about the chorus is that you learn all of the songs, and while you're learning the songs, the way that we were being taught is we were being taught each part. So the sopranos would learn their bit, the altos would learn their bit, the tenors their bit, and the basses their bit. So at the end of the months of rehearsals that we had for this, I knew every part of every song, because when you're in your early 20s, you're still soaking it all up. And because I had the experience of the church choir, then I was able to do this. I could sing in after a fashion every part of every song because I knew them all. And that experience has carried through, so that now if I'm singing in a band, then I'll either sing the lead or I'll do the harmonies, because either way is a piece of cake. It's natural. I can hear it. And the same when I'm recording. I'll record a lead vocal and I can hear all the harmonies as well. So we'll immediately, as soon as I've done the lead vocal, we'll do the harmonies, maybe 2 or 3 different harmony sections. To me, that is a skill. And I know that not everybody is able to do that, because I've worked with other songwriters and musicians who cannot hear harmonies. So I know that it's it's a gift, and I'm very grateful for it. So yeah, that plays a big part in what I do.
Yeah, and I think also I really like how, especially when you were talking about your story and how you kind of moved through with music, that it seems like working with other musicians or collabing when you're in the studio is quite an important part of what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's very fortunate to have, because I don't think everybody has that opportunity or knows how to work with others musically in that sort of way, and how that can really impact on the music that you create.
Oh, it's massive. Because I know that, I had my own recording equipment from, I don't know, the 1990s, but 8-track stuff basically, and I used to play around at home recording the songs and get an experience of using guitars and keyboards and the different keyboard sounds that you can get, and drum machines, and so just playing around basically and seeing what I could get out of this and seeing what I ended up with. But going into a pro studio and having pro musicians play on your songs gives it a whole different feel, a million miles away from what I was able to do at home. And so immediately recognized how important those people are. And it's also like the two heads are better than one syndrome, because I might go into a studio with an idea of how a song should sound and come out, several hours later with a song which sounded completely different to what I had in my mind, but so much better, because the musicians that came in added their own ideas and feel to the song. I just used to let them have free rein, do what you feel, guys. I never dictated anything to them. So they would choose where they wanted to play in the songs, and they would choose what they wanted to play. And to me, that was the most natural way to do it. So I had this wonderful experience in Florida, and as a result, we got 2 CDs out of that. Well, our time in Florida came to an end about 2017. I think we sold the place. It was just getting too expensive to spend time out there, because we were closing down our business, so our income was reduced, and we just didn't have the money to do that. So I started recording in studios in the UK, and I found another studio in New Haven in Sussex with a guy there who was equally as talented as John Kelly, another John Fowler, but the feel that he brought to the songs was much more Brit rock, much more British, not an American feel at all. Very talented musician again, and a very talented producer. So we ended up with the 3rd CD released in 2017, which is mostly recorded in the UK, a couple of tracks recorded in Florida. The difference recording in the UK was, we were using different musicians, but I went into the studio in New Haven, and we started work about 10 o'clock in the morning on one song, the first song on that CD, a song called "The Promised Land," which is about the refugee crisis. That was really headline news in 2016, 2017. All those poor families trying to escape the atrocities in North Africa and places like that, and trying to get across the Mediterranean in flimsy boats. So I wrote "The Promised Land" because that's what they were looking for. And I recorded that in John Fowler's studio, and we started there at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I walked out of there at 8 o'clock in the evening, absolutely wiped out. And we'd recorded it took us 10 hours to record the one song. And it was full on. It was hard work, but we did it. But that's the way he works. So it's a completely different way to the way I was working in Florida, where I was getting a song done in 3 to 4 hours.
It's
But
really interesting. I think, especially because from what I've heard of your songs and the context you gave me to sort of talk about on the radio, and from what you were saying now, a lot of your songs have a story behind them, or there's a narrative in the story, in the song itself. How do you get the inspiration for those songs? Where do they come from for you?
It varies a lot. When I was out in Florida, it would, be about the time we were having out there. When you're inspired, because the climate is so nice, they're kind of a lot of upbeat songs, happy songs about the beach, and stuff like that. So inspiration, the Promised Land came from the refugee crisis. Other songs come from a phrase I have in my head. So a few years ago, I wrote a song called "A Dangerous Maneuver in the Dark," because that was a phrase I had in my head, and I thought, that's a good song title. And because it was October, the song had to be about Halloween. And that song gets played every Halloween. So, sometimes it's like that. Freshly cut sandwiches, once again, an intriguing title that people will hopefully pick up on. What's that about? Well, a friend of mine sent me a storyline, which was freshly cut sandwiches, and he wanted to write a song with me, but he didn't know how to go about it. So he scratched a few lines together, and it was this story. So what I did, I thought it was a great story, was take the story and make it into a song. Sometimes I work with collaborators in that way. So sometimes I'll have, some people will send me lyrics, and if I like the lyrics and can relate to them, that inspires me to write a song. Sometimes I'll have a melody which I think is particularly good, but I don't have any lyrics for it. So I'll put it out and see who can come up with some decent lyrics for it. So, there are various ways you can create songs. Some are personal experiences, some are other people's experiences, and some are literally made up.
That's fascinating. I think especially from what you said, it could come from the smallest thing.
Yeah.
And that could spark an idea that just kind of keeps going. Like you said, it could be one line that you've seen or you've thought of, and it can just start from there, just that little catalyst kind of grow further. It's also interesting that you, especially with Promised Land, because it's not necessarily something that you've experienced, but it's inspired from events that are happening in the world at the moment. And like you said, I can imagine that one being quite taxing to create, because the subject matter is quite deep and it's quite difficult to talk about. To try and create a story or a song around that must have been quite a challenge.
Yes, I think what you need to do with something, well, what I did with something like that was to create a song that people can relate to very much, without it being personal, without it being pointing at anyone, without it being political. It's the story told from the perspective of a refugee family. It's their story. So I tried to put myself in their shoes. And the way the song was written, it's very upbeat. And when I was writing it, it sounded to me like it had a gospel feel to it. And with a gospel feel to it, what do you have? Well, you've got to have a choir, haven't you? You've got to have a lot of voices in there. So when we recorded it, it had this a lot of music going on in the background, because that's the gospel sound, if you like, the feel. So it had guitar, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, piano, organ, drums, bass, fiddle. So there was a lot thrown in there. And then we had to create the choir sound. Well, there was me, John Fowler, and his wife. And so there we were for 2 hours in the studio singing the backing vocal to The Promised Land. And we ended up, you know, with this full sound to sound like a choir, just the three of us. So it just takes a lot of work. But you're all singing, so take after take after take, singing melodies, singing harmonies, and just till you get it right.
That's fascinating. And the fact that, like you said before, the locations that you were in when you recorded those have an impact on how it sounded, and the inspiration that came from wherever you were at the time, that kind of really has an impact on the music that comes out.
Yes, and it's also the interpretation from the producer and the and the musicians that you work with. You know, for example, with The Promised Land, when I went into John Fowler's studio, this is the first time I'd met him. I'd only talked to him on the phone, and sent him the song. And when I got there, he said, right, he said, I've got an idea for the introduction. The song is in 4/4 time, but he said the introduction's going to be in 6/8. So in the introduction, you've got to play in 6/8 and then move to 4/4. And I looked at him like he was from another planet, because I'm thinking, how the hell do I do this? Because I'd been playing the song as a 4/4 song. And that's how I'd learnt it. And I like to go into a studio prepared, so that I know pretty well what I'm going to play and what I'm going to do. And the first thing he does is throw a curveball at me. Well, it took me, you know, a few takes, but I was amazed. I managed to do it. And now it's just so natural, I don't even think about it. But that's the kind of influence that you can get from other people and other people's ideas, whether they be musicians or producers, and you know, and people whose studios you work in, because they have their techniques for getting the sound right.
How do you kind of find the balance in that? Because I can imagine, I know from a lot of creators that I talk to that they're very precious over what they do and what's come out of their heads and the inspiration they've had, that it can be quite a challenge when you then take it to like a studio or you're working in collab with somebody else to allow them to either break things down or to make changes and be okay with that.
If it sounds good, if it's a good idea, I haven't been faced with anything that's not been a good idea. So, you know, all the people I've worked with are so good. I'm so lucky to have met these people and worked with them. I just let them have free rein, because in the end, I know that the song is going to be better for it. So it may be a challenge for some, but I've not found it that at all. And I'm, you know, immensely pleased and proud of the songs that have been recorded, because, you know, I know that they've started life as just me and an acoustic guitar or me and a piano. And, you know, to get this fully orchestrated, complete sound in a completed song is fantastic. The only problem I have is that when I do the songs live, I can't give the audience an appreciation of what they sound like on the CD, which is why I really love to get as much radio airplay as I can, because then, you know, the song gets put over. And that's why when I was doing the recording sessions for you, I was sending you me and a guitar at home, plus a couple of songs from the CD, so that, you know, people would get the idea that it's not just me and a guitar. If you know, if they want to listen to any of my songs, it's not just me and a guitar. They're fully orchestrated, fully produced, complete songs.
I think that's something that I've heard from other people as well, because I don't have experience obviously being a musician or anything like that, but one thing that I got to appreciate talking to other artists was the fact that what you create in the studio is going to be very different to what happens live, and how they, like you said, you can do so much in the studio, but then when it's just you on stage or something,
Yeah,
finding that way of doing that performance that does that song justice, but it's a very
yeah,
different feel to what happens when you record it. And I don't think a lot of people appreciate the difference in that, because you just kind of assume, oh, well, they're
yeah,
there and they'll just do their thing and then it's the same live. But no, you can add so much more in the studio that
yeah.
maybe you can't physically do on stage.
Yeah, that's correct. It's difficult for me as a solo singer with just a guitar, because the audience with something like The Promised Land cannot get the appreciation of the equivalent of a 50 voice choir in the background, because it's just me. But to me, also, the important thing is that the song needs to stand up on its own. So it needs to be strong enough so that if you just play it with an acoustic guitar, then it's going to come over positively enough and well enough, be well received by the audience, so that they'll want to go and listen to the studio recorded version. And that's what I hope to achieve. And there have been quite a few occasions where I've gone to an open mic and just done 3 songs, and I only do my own songs at open mics. I'll do 3 songs, and I get people coming up to me and buying CDs as a result. So that, to me, it means that the song is strong enough to stand up on its own, and that's what it should be.
Yeah.
If a song is all production, then that's what it is, But if it's a good song, it will stand up on its own.
And then it gives not only you, but also the listener the opportunity to hear that song in so many different ways and appreciate it in different ways as well.
Yeah, exactly. So they can appreciate it's a bit like the house concerts, if you like. You get back to that where you're just playing acoustically, either guitar or piano, and it's just you as a soloist. That's it. But if people like the songs, they come and buy the CDs, because they want to hear the song in their full glory. But they still enjoy them just sang acoustically. I taught myself to play the piano over many years, and I use the piano as an instrument to help create the songs, because you get a different sound on the piano to the guitar. Now, I very rarely play the piano out in public because I'm just not that good, but I do use it in the recording studio. And a couple of years ago, last time we were in Florida, I played a house concert, and I did 3 songs on the piano, because the piano was the correct medium for those songs to be presented. They don't sound the same on the guitar. They were written on the piano, and that's how they should be played. So I played the piano in public for the first time at a house concert, and nobody walked out. And I didn't get thrown in the pool. So I think it worked.
I love it. That's great.
Sometimes you've got to face your demons head on.
I think it's really fascinating as well that, like you said, how a song is created and what instruments are used in the process of that, really, and you understanding what gives that song, what will make that song sound stronger depending on how you built it up.
Yes, I mean, there are some songs which are more obviously guitar songs, and there are some songs which are more obviously piano songs, and some that you can do with either. Recently, during this lockdown process, I've been revisiting some older songs that I wrote around the turn of the century. They're quite reflective in nature, but I thought I just wanted to record them in my home studio so that I'd have better recordings of them, and I'd give them a new lease of life and record them in a different way to the way I'd done in the past on an 8-track. So that was quite interesting because I wanted to give them a stripped down feel, just either with a piano and very little else, or with a guitar and very little else. So you know, having revisited them, you know, I've put different instrumentation on them, and I really like the way that they've come out. So I'm going to be releasing like an EP. I think there's half a dozen songs, so not quite a CD, but maybe an extended EP if there is such a thing, an EEP.
I like it.
So you know, of stripped down songs, so that they have a more acoustic feel. So yeah, that's been taking my time, or some time, over lockdown.
It's nice to hear that you've been able to find productive things during the lockdown and things that have inspired you to work on your music.
Yeah, well, I've also written a song called Lockdown. So it's the only song I've done because I've been doing these other things and been doing some these Zoom sessions for the choir and stuff like that. So I've not had a lot of time to myself, but I've had this idea in the back of my mind for some time now about a song, and it finally I let it kind of germinate in there for a while, and it finally came out a week or so ago, and the song is called Lockdown, but it's about a fictional town. So you're driving and you end up off the road somewhere, and you're in this place called Lockdown.
Oh wow!
And so, but the way the song is, as you're driving through it, you're describing all the things that are happening to us now. Like the stores are all closed and the shutters are down. You're driving the streets and there's no one around. You know, the playgrounds are empty. The kids are all home. So you're in this this town that doesn't exist because it's all in your imagination, really. But it's called Lockdown, and that is going to be a really up-tempo rock song. And I'm waiting for John Kelly to make himself available so that he can put some raunchy Mark Knopfler guitar on it, and then we can release it on an unsuspecting world.
I love it. I look forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm hoping, says he, touching wood, that John is gonna. I know he wants to work on it. It's just finding the time for him to do it, and then when it's done, it's going to be. I know what it's going to sound like. It's going to sound great. So I'm looking forward to that one, and I'm hoping that by the end of the month we'll have it done, and I can send it out to everyone, and you can start playing it.
Definitely. So I understand that you have got an EP coming out this month.
Yeah, I've got a CD. It's called Come On In, and there's Elijah did the graphics for me, so he designed the cover. We talked about it, and he came up with a design. And there are 10 songs. Some of them recorded completely in my home studio. Some of them recorded in John Fowler's studio in New Haven. And when I'm recording the songs in my own studio, I either bring musicians in where I need them, or send the songs out to other people for them to put their stuff on and then send them back to me so that I can mix them in my own studio. So the wonders of technology, you know, I've got people from all over the world, literally, doing their bits on different songs on that CD. So very much a collaborative affair.
I love that. I love that you can collaborate with people, but not necessarily have to be there as well. If they can't come into you, like you said, you can reach people all over the world to collaborate
Yeah,
on your music.
yeah. It's the technology is great because you can do that. So um, I sent a song over to John Kelly in Florida and said, I need you to put some guitar on this. So he played some guitar bits, and he made me 3 different guitar tracks. You send the tracks back to me, I load them into the studio, and then the clever bit is that well, the clever bit is him playing, but the clever bit from the recording studio point of view is that I can take the good bits of each of those different recordings he's made and seamlessly put them together in the song so that it sounds like he's playing it in one take. So that, I've done that, and lots of other people work in that way. I've sent similarly to a guy who now lives in Scotland, who did some more guitar work for me like that, and put other instruments on and sent it back. And it's always really nice when you get this stuff back, because then you can listen to what they've done and think, my God, I never thought of that. Wow. So I'm really pleased with the way this has come out. And there's one song where I play all the instruments, which is a wow moment for me. Having said that, the drums are programmed, but and there's quite a lot of stuff played through the keyboard, brass sounds and a bass guitar, as well as a piano and organ. But I played it all, so I feel pretty pleased that I managed to do that and get a decent sound out of it. So yeah, so that one is being released at the moment. We're now, I think Elijah is promoting the 3rd single from that CD at the moment to radio stations all over the UK. And I'm the nice thing is I'm being played on all sorts of radio stations in the UK, and Radio Caroline, which I think is a big plus, a feather in the cap. And the CD will go live on digital platforms later this month. As you can see, I've already got copies. If anybody wants a copy, all you got to do is ask. And if you go on my Facebook page, I'll start promoting this month, and there'll be a link to buy, download a copy, buy a download copy if you want to.
What's your Facebook page if people wanted to do that?
Okay, it's Rowland, that's ROWLAND, Miggi, MIGGI, Middleton. So that's my music page. So anything music related goes on there. I'm not posting every day. It's just stuff to tell you when I'm being played on radio, and things like that, and songs that are being released, links to various digital platforms to listen to stuff, that kind of thing.
Fantastic. Well, I wish you all the best with the album or the CD release, and I hope it goes well. And good luck with these songs that you've got prepared, ready to go. Yes,
yeah. So later on in the year, there'll be another release. So I'm basically, I want to keep doing this until I get to the point where I can't anymore. So as long as the ideas are there, and I'll keep creating. When the ideas dry up, then that's when you quit, isn't it?
There you go. That's it. I know we haven't got much time, but I just wanted to, one thing that I think is very interesting with your story, like you said, just going back a little bit, was the fact that you obviously had to get into a corporate life and keep money coming in, but you were able to keep your passion there in some form or another. How did you find that balance? Because I think a lot of people struggle with trying to find that when they find something they really love doing, but they can't necessarily do it as a full paid thing.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, when you've got a mortgage and a growing family and bills to pay, that kind of focuses the attention somewhat. So it was a case of prioritizing what was necessary to do. And because I kind of thought I'm never going to, the likelihood is that I'm not going to make enough money to keep a decent standard of living as a musician or as a songwriter, or as a performer. So best thing for me to do, and this is a personal thing, is carry on with the career, and then in my case pick it up later. You're never too old, are you? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what I want to do, as I say, I don't want to go on tour, but if I can write decent music and get that music out there, and people take some pleasure from it, then that to me is job done. So you know, I'm in my 70s now, so I'll just keep on doing this until something drops off and I can't do it anymore. But if I can do it, then do it. You know, age is just a number.
Definitely, yeah. And I love that, you know, irrespective of what's going on in your life, that you always had it there in some form. Like you said, sometimes you have to prioritize differently, but you're able to keep that love of music continuing with you. And it's lovely to hear that something you started when you were younger is something that you're able to now really put a lot of time and effort in, because you still love it. It's still something you're passionate about.
You're absolutely right. And I'm fortunate to have the time, the energy, and the ability to you know, bring my passion to life through the songwriting. It was funny when I started performing and playing guitar all those years ago. I always wanted to write songs, so it was inevitable. That was going to happen, and from the age of 20 onwards, I was writing songs, and carried on doing that on and off throughout my life, and carried on playing in bands and solo for a lot of the time when I was working and had a career. So that continued, and as I say, songwriting continued, but it didn't. I think my purple patch, if you like, is now, and I'm so pleased with the quality of the songs that have been created in the last I don't know, 8 to 10 years, something like that. So I'm not someone who is writing every day or every week. I just write when I feel like it, and so the creation is more natural. It's not forced, and I have lots of you know, if I'm out walking, or I have a motorbike, riding my motorbike, or working in the garden or something like that, I've always got tunes going around my head, and I never rush to go and record them, because I know that they're there, and if they're any good, they'll come back. So
it's interesting.
It's odd. I don't know why, but lots of stuff, and as I say, there's some good stuff and some not so good stuff, and the good stuff keeps coming back, and if it keeps coming back, it needs to be worked on. So it's really odd. So I can be, you know, walking along or riding a bike or riding a motorbike, and all of a sudden a melody pops in my head, and I'll, you know, be singing along and trying to work out what does this sound like and where can I take it, and etc., etc. So hopefully I don't take my mind off what I'm doing too much if I'm riding the motorbike. But yeah, it happens like that all the time. And eventually a song will pop out.
I love the fact that you said that you allow those ideas to come, and it's the ones that stay with you and continue to develop that you then are able to turn into songs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I say there are some melodies which are good, and some that are not so good, you know, as in not so interesting. So I try and construct the songs around interesting melodies and interesting chord sequences as well. So to me, that's important. So when you listen to my songs, most of them will have things in there that you don't expect to hear. So they'll have a strange chord sequence, or I'll be throwing something in that's not normal. And it just keeps the interest of the listener. I'm not playing necessarily standard chord structures. As a listener, a non-musician, then it would be, from listening to it, you would be able to hear, oh, that's a bit different, and then listen for it again. But the idea is that it keeps you listening. So I guess that's a trick that a lot of songwriters use.
Well, it's been really lovely to talk to you today. I really, really appreciate the time that you've taken. When is the new CD released?
I think it's the end of the month, July 31st, I believe. Even that kind of thing, I leave to Elijah, so I'm leaving it to somebody else,
I love it. That's good.
So
if anybody's interested,
things.
By the end of the month, check it out, and they can find out more information about you, or if they want to get hold of CD via your Facebook page,
page, or look me up on Spotify. On Spotify under Miggi, Miggi, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. I think that's it. Are there any others?
iTunes.
Oh yeah, maybe yes, iTunes. Yeah, I would think, but I keep people. When I speak to people that I know, and they've said, "Oh, we found you on so and so." I didn't even know there was a YouTube music channel, but apparently I'm there.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
So anyway, there we are. Thank you very much.
No problem. I really, really appreciate it. It's been so lovely to talk to you today. At the end of my interviews, I always love to get people to sign our Big One journal, which we can't do in person, but we'll have to do at some point. But would you mind just sharing what it would be that you would have written in the Big One journal?
Yes, I have it written here. It's, if you have a talent, use it, nurture it, let it grow, and then let it fly.
I love it. That's fantastic. Why did you choose to write that in the journal?
Well, I think because if you have a talent, you first of all need to recognize it, and then if you want to do something about it, then you need to nurture it and you need to work on it. Whatever it is, whether you're a songwriter, a performer, a poet, an artist, a sculpturer, whatever it is, then it takes work and effort. Things don't happen overnight. You really have to work on them. So, work on it, nurture it, feed it, let it grow, and then let it take off. Because you will get to a point where you become good. And some people will be better than others, for sure, because they're more naturally inclined that way. But a lot of people have a talent that really needs to be expressed. So express it. It's never too late.
There you go. And I think that's great. From what we talked about today, I can see that in your journey and the things that you've done.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very true. And so the best of times can come when you're older. It doesn't matter.
Definitely.
Would I have liked to have been a struggling musician for all of my adult life? I don't think so. I think I'm happy with the way things are.
Good. Well, we're appreciating the music that's coming out, so you're doing something right. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Big One podcast with me, Kaylee Hillier. If you want to keep following the podcast, please think of subscribing to us. We'd love to have you along for our Big One journey. We also have a website, which is thebig-one.com. And we're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as Big One as well. So you can find us all over there, and keep coming with our journey.